What if I told you that 4,000 years ago, the ancient Egyptians discovered something terrifying about death? They found that dying isn't the hard part. It's what comes after that will test everything you think you know about yourself. According to their sacred texts, every soul that crosses into the afterlife must face 12 gates. Not doorways you simply walk through, but trials that examine your deepest fears, strip away your illusions, and judge the very essence of who you are. Most souls fail these tests. They dissolve into nothingness, experiencing what the Egyptians called the second death, complete annihilation of consciousness itself. But here's what makes this ancient knowledge so unsettling. These 12 trials aren't just waiting for you after death. They're happening to you right now in your daily life, testing whether you're ready for what lies beyond. The Egyptians spent their entire lives preparing for these gates because they understood a truth we've forgotten. Eternity isn't guaranteed. It's earned. Tonight I'm going to take you through each of these 12 gates. You'll discover what trials await at every threshold, what happens to souls who fail, and most importantly, how to recognize these same tests in your own life. By the end of this journey, you'll understand why the Egyptians believed that how you live determines not just how you die, but whether you truly live at all. The first gate is already waiting for you. The question is, are you prepared to face what it demands? This isn't speculation or New Age interpretation. What I'm about to show you comes directly from source texts that Egyptologist Dr. Mark Lehner has called the most detailed roadmap of consciousness after death ever created by human civilization. The Papyrus of Ani, housed in the British Museum, contains 37 meters of precisely detailed instructions for navigating these gates. The walls of Ramesses VI's tomb, discovered in 1898, show the same journey mapped out in stunning visual detail. But here's what makes this knowledge so crucial. Modern near-death experience research by Dr. Raymond Moody and Dr. Pim van Lommel is documenting encounters that match these ancient Egyptian trials with disturbing accuracy. The gates aren't mythology. They're documentation of something that happens to human consciousness itself. But here's what they never tell you about the Duat. It wasn't just a place the dead went to. Every single night, Ra, the sun god, traveled through these same 12 gates. And every morning he emerged reborn. The Egyptians were documenting something that happens to consciousness itself, a process of death and rebirth that doesn't wait for your physical death to begin. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of existence itself. Before you stretches the Duat, a realm where rivers flow with liquid starlight, cutting through caverns carved from crystallized night. 12 massive gates rise from this cosmic landscape, each one pulsing with its own inner light. In the shadows between each gate, something watches you. Eyes like burning coals, animal heads that shift and change in the flickering light of eternity. The earliest description of this cosmic realm appears in the pyramid texts, carved into Pharaoh Unas's pyramid around 2350 BCE. According to Egyptologist Dr. James Allen, these represent humanity's oldest surviving religious texts. These guardians don't simply block passage. They demand secret names, protective spells, and something far more challenging. They require the soul to prove its transformation through the choices it made in life. What happens next changed everything for the Egyptians. Gate 1 towers before you, testing something you face every single day. The guardian emerges with the head of a jackal, eyes blazing with divine fire. This being doesn't ask for your name, it asks for your true identity. Every role you played in life, your job, your relationships, your achievements, begins to dissolve like smoke in a cosmic wind. Gate 1 is testing what psychologists call identity foreclosure, when you've become so identified with your roles that you've forgotten who you actually are underneath them. Right now, when someone asks, "Who are you?" do you immediately list your job title, your relationship status, your achievements? Gate 1 is happening every time life forces you to confront who you are, when all those external identifiers are stripped away. Try this. Sit quietly for 5 minutes and ask yourself, "Who am I?" without mentioning your job, relationships, possessions, or achievements. What remains? That's what Gate 1 is testing. Gate 2 confronts pure existential terror. Shadow beings threaten to dissolve the soul into nothingness, testing courage in the face of complete annihilation. This is that 3 a.m. moment when you suddenly confront the possibility that consciousness might simply end, that your life might be ultimately meaningless. The test isn't whether you feel the fear, it's whether you can act with courage despite feeling terrified of dissolution. This gate activates every time you face a major life transition. Divorce, job loss, death of a loved one. The question is, can you find meaning and purpose even when everything feels meaningless? But something shifts at Gate 3 that most people miss completely. Gate 3 attacks what psychologists call hedonic adaptation, the endless cycle of wanting more stuff to fill an internal void. All your earthly treasures appear before you like chains of gold and silver. This gate tests you every time you see an advertisement and feel lack. Every time you compare your life to others on social media. Every time you believe happiness comes from acquiring something external. The soul must choose, hold on to the temporary or reach for the eternal. Every moment you choose connection over consumption, you're passing Gate 3. Now, something changes at Gate 4, and most people miss this completely. The first 3 gates test your attachments to the material world. But Gate 4 attacks something far more precious to most souls. Gate 4 tests the illusion of control, the belief that you can manage life's outcomes through force, manipulation, or authority. Even pharaohs who commanded armies had to surrender completely here. This gate opens every time life reminds you that you're not actually in control. The test is whether you can influence what you can influence while releasing attachment to outcomes. Start small. Let someone else choose the restaurant. Allow your partner to handle a decision their way. Notice your need to control and practice releasing it. Gate 5, the Lake of Fire. This burning expanse stretches as far as divine sight can reach, its flames dancing with colors that don't exist in earthly fire. These fires burn with cosmic purples, impossible blues, colors that have no names because mortal eyes have never seen them. But watch what happens when a soul aligned with truth approaches. The cosmic fire recognizes purity and parts before them like water. But a soul carrying falsehood, greed, or cruelty. The fire burns away every lie they ever told, every moment of cruelty, every deception, until only truth remains. This is Carl Jung's shadow work, confronting the parts of yourself you've been denying. Gate 5 activates every time life forces you to face uncomfortable truths about yourself. Gate 6, the Serpents of Chaos. These beings represent forces of disorder that constantly threaten to unravel creation itself. The serpents test your ability to maintain inner stability when external life becomes unpredictable. The protective knowledge isn't just information, it's embodied wisdom that keeps you centered in chaos. Develop chaos-resistant practices now: meditation, breathwork, spiritual study. When crisis hits, these become your protective spells against the serpents of disorder. What the Egyptians discovered about identity will shock you. Gates 7 to 9 represent what psychologists call ego death, the terrifying but necessary dissolution of who you think you are to discover who you actually are. Gate 7 tests whether your spiritual knowledge is authentic wisdom or just spiritual bypassing, using mystical concepts to avoid real psychological work. The Guardians demand not just secret names, but genuine understanding. Knowledge without wisdom fails at this threshold. Gate 8 forces the ultimate accountability moment. Here the soul must declare not only its name but account for its deeds. Every action taken during earthly life comes under scrutiny. This isn't about listing achievements or defending mistakes. The Guardians can see through any self-deception. You must acknowledge who you truly became through your choices. Gate 9, Ego Death Preparation. Here, souls witness terrifying images of dissolution. Bodies torn apart, forms scattered like dust, identities dissolved into nothingness. The trial teaches the deepest lesson of immortality. You are not your body. You are not your personality. You are consciousness itself, awareness that cannot be destroyed by any force in the universe. What happens at Gate 10 shocked even the ancient Egyptians themselves. Gate 10, the weighing of the heart. Anubis, the jackal-headed judge, stands beside scales that could determine the fate of eternity itself. Your heart, not the physical organ, but the sum total of every choice you ever made, is placed on one side of the scale. On the other side, Ma'at's feather, representing perfect truth and cosmic balance. The scales begin to move. Every lie you told adds weight to your heart. Every act of kindness makes it lighter. Every moment you chose truth over deception, compassion over cruelty. Modern neuroscience reveals this isn't metaphorical. Repeated acts of kindness strengthen compassion neural pathways. The heart that gets weighed is your actual neural configuration, built through millions of micro-choices. If your heart balances with the feather, you advance toward paradise. If it proves too heavy, Gate 11, meet Amit, the devourer of souls. Part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, a creature designed by cosmic forces to be the perfect destroyer. But Amit doesn't torture the unworthy. She does something far worse. She devours them completely. This is the second death, total annihilation of consciousness itself. You don't go to hell. You don't suffer for eternity. You simply cease. As if you never existed at all. Complete erasure from the cosmic record. Gate 12, Paradise Revealed. But for those who pass the weighing, the final gate reveals something beyond imagination. The field of reeds unfolds before you, life as it was always meant to be lived. Here, you reunite with loved ones across centuries. Work becomes pure joy rather than burden. You cultivate eternal gardens, sailboats on celestial rivers, feast at tables that never empty. This isn't passive bliss. You continue to grow, learn, create, and explore, but now in perfect harmony with cosmic truth. This ancient knowledge changes everything about how you should live. These gates aren't waiting for you in some distant afterlife. They're testing you right now in every choice you make, every day you're alive. Every time you face your fears with courage, that's Gate 2. Every time you release attachment to things that hold you back, that's Gate 3. Every time you surrender the need to control outcomes, that's Gate 4. Every time you look in the mirror and acknowledge who you really are beneath all pretenses, that's Gate 8. Every choice between compassion and cruelty is literally rewiring your brain for the heart weighing. Each morning ask, Which gates am I facing today? Each evening, how did I respond to today's gate tests? Your closest relationships are gate laboratories. Every argument tests gate 4, control. Every moment of jealousy tests gate 3, attachment. Every fight where you refuse to admit fault tests gate 8, honesty. Here's what modern neuroscience reveals about the heart weighing. Every moment you choose compassion over cruelty, truth over deception, courage over fear, you're literally building the neural pathways that determine how your heart weighs. The feather of Maat represents optimal human neural configuration. The Egyptians spent 3,000 years, longer than Christianity has existed, mapping human consciousness development. Their greatest minds dedicated their lives to understanding whether awareness can survive death. What they discovered, life itself, is preparation for a test of whether your consciousness is strong enough, pure enough, compassionate enough to continue existing beyond physical form. Every day you're building the consciousness that will determine your eternal fate. Not in some distant afterlife, but in the eternal now that exists beyond physical death. The gates aren't waiting for you. You're walking through them right now. The question isn't whether you'll face these tests, you're facing them today. The question is, are you passing? The Egyptians left us one more secret about consciousness survival. Something they hid in plain sight for 4,000 years. Something that changes everything we think we know about what happens when we die. But that's a story for another time.